A small Shiekdom hemmed in between West Asian behemoth Saudi Arabia and the sea on the coast of the Persian Gulf, Qatar burst into global prominence by hosting the recently concluded FIFA World Cup. One of the richest countries in the world, Qatar has used its massive wealth of oil and natural gas to build up one of the highest GDPs per capita in the world and become one of the major power brokers in West Asia. It has the fastest growing economy in West Asia and North Africa. However, the rise of Qatar has not been without its fair share of scandals and controversies. At one point, Qatar was boycotted by Saudi Arabia, but Qatar was able to survive and get out of the Saudi blockade. So how did Qatar deal with these issues, and do their threats still linger on for the country? Hello and welcome. I am Shubhangi Sharma and you're watching Firstpost. As the year ends, Qatar makes it to Firstpost's list of nations and leaders to watch out for in the near future. A small desert nation sticking out like a thumb into the Persian Gulf, Qatar is blessed by some of the biggest reserves of petroleum and natural gas in the world. It has used this considerable wealth to buy some of the most iconic global brands, such as the Paris Saint-Germain football club. It has also bought the famous Harrods store in London and billions of dollars worth of properties in New York. But how did such a small nation, a mere speck on the global map, rise to such prominence? The rise of Qatar started with a palace coup in 1995 that saw a more assertive ruler snatch power. Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani had seized power in a bloodless coup from his father, who was in Switzerland at the time. Immediately after ascending to the throne, the new ruler placed himself as one of the key allies of the US in the region. This partnership was sealed by a permanent presence of the US military at the Al Udeid Air Base, which was built in 1996 and which houses around 10,000 US military personnel. From this military base, the US had carried out many of the airstrikes on Iraq and Afghanistan during its military campaigns in those countries. Qatar also played host to several rounds of dialogue between the US and the Taliban, which ultimately led to the American withdrawal from Afghanistan and the installation of a Taliban government in Kabul. In order to push its soft power and give itself a global face, Qatar created Al Jazeera, the satellite news channel that became known worldwide for airing statements from late Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. Although it was opposed by some sections within the US after the American-led invasion of Iraq in 2003, the channel provided the Arab world with a kind of sophistication that it had not seen before. It very subtly forwards Qatar's foreign policy views and has elevated the country's soft power. However, in international politics, the rise of a nation invariably gives rise to envy and opposition among neighbors, and Qatar was no exception. As the Arab Spring protests of 2011 took the countries of North Africa and the Gulf by storm, Qatar used its wealth to back the Islamists who emerged stronger across the region. However, this provoked strong reactions from fellow Arab states like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Bahrain, as they viewed the Arab Spring uprising as a threat to their kingdoms. A 2014 dispute over Qatar's support for Islamists saw Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates withdraw their ambassadors, only to bring them back 8 months later. These countries, along with Egypt, led a boycott of Qatar that started in 2017 and nearly sparked a war. These nations closed off air traffic and severed economic ties with Qatar. At one point, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain had mooted a plan to dig a deep trench along the 60-kilometer-long Saudi-Qatar border in order to cut off the tiny state from the Arabian Peninsula and effectively turn it into an island. This dispute ended as US President Joe Biden took office, though regional tensions still remain. The arrival of European leaders to Doha, hopeful for additional natural gas amidst the dispute with Russia, has also helped Qatar improve its diplomatic heft. 2022 saw the finest hour of Qatar's efforts to showcase its soft power and push itself as a major destination for tourism and business as the attention of the world was focused on the FIFA World Cup. For years prior to the tournament, there was negative publicity in the global media due to allegations of human rights abuses of laborers engaged in building the stadiums. However, as the tournament started, all those issues were brushed under the carpet. But they are back now, especially with the corruption scandal rocking the European Union. Qatar has reportedly been paying bribes to leaders of the European Union to get them to lobby on its behalf and influence the EU's policy decisions. Europe is caught in a tricky spot. Qatar is now one of Europe's most important natural gas suppliers, and Doha has said that it will stop those gas supplies if the EU does not drop investigations into its involvement in the corruption scandal. In fact, Qatar reportedly bribed FIFA officials too to win the hosting rights of the recently concluded World Cup. Qatar's rivals in the region, the likes of Saudi Arabia and its allies, have accused Qatar of being a major patron of terror outfits. Qatar is seen as a kingdom that wants to replace Saudi Arabia as a gatekeeper of Islam and become the global leader of Muslims. To that end, Qatar finds supporters in the likes of Pakistan and Turkey. Its ways may be questionable, but it has a formidable lobbying power. What's more, it has the ambition and the intent to be a global player. The story of West Asia now, and perhaps even the world, cannot be told without the mention of Qatar. So what do you make of Qatar's rise? Do let us know in the comments.